Welcome to Out of Home Insider. Today's guest is Adam Malone, co-founder and president of Screenverse, a specialized provider of ad management and monetization for digital screen owners. We talk all about how he got his start in the early days of Do Media, what lessons that taught him, and how that's translated into success for Screenverse despite being launched at the beginning of a pandemic. We talk about the industry at large, lessons of living startup life, and what the future may look like for Out of Home. To find more great companies like Screenverse on the first free public access directory for all things out of home, or to get your great company listed, check out onescreen.ai. Schedule a demo or click Get Listed to learn about how OneScreen is democratizing the out-of-home industry to unlock new growth for everyone. Without further ado, let's go.
Welcome, everybody, to the Out of Home Insider Show, a podcast like no other, hosted by the one and only Tim Rowe. Get ready to have some knowledge dropped on you and to be entertained, because nothing's more valuable than food for your brain. So sit back, relax, we're about to dive in as the best industry podcast is about to begin.
Adam Malone, Screenverse, he's here. Thanks so much for being here, Adam.
Good morning.
Good morning, wherever you are in the world. Good morning, Out of Home Insider. Wherever you are in the world, whatever time you are consuming this, it's a bright, shiny fall morning here. And Adam Malone, Screenverse. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the last year in the Screenverse world. I'm excited to dive into it. But the place I always like to start with guests, especially first-time guests, is the origin story. How'd you get into this crazy game of out of home?
It's a good question. So I would say that, first and foremost, I got bit by the entrepreneurship bug. So it was really that. It's that, entrepreneurship is kind of the cornerstone of my career, my life. Really, since I was 16, 17, I knew I wanted to build a business, and went to college at Ohio State and got plugged into the kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem, and found a mentor who was, sort of the big VC in town. And he had invested in this company called Do Media, and it was very young. There were only a couple people there, but I knew the people that were there were super smart, and I knew that they had a really extraordinary vision for the company. And this guy, Rich Langdale, who is my mentor even to this day, was like, "Hey, man, I know you're planning on doing this other thing. I know you're planning on," it was General Electric Aviation, actually, is where I was supposed to go out of school.
Sure.
And he's like, "Don't do that. Come work for me. I'll teach you how to build businesses. And when you're ready, I'll support you when you want to start your own business." So it was kind of that got me into Do Media. And then once I got into Do Media, I was one of the first employees there. I just kind of fell in love with the industry. At the first couple of years of Do Media, we're just calling, vendors, media owners all over the country, talking to them, listening to them, trying to get them to sign up, list their inventory in the platform, and build the database. So I had a real chance to meet, not just the big guys, but all the small operators in Indiana and Kansas and Oklahoma. These real cool third, fourth generation businesses that were really generous with their time, were really polite and supportive, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And so I built my career 12 years now, and it was a little bit of an accident getting in, but yeah, I feel very welcomed in the industry and very happy that I ended up here.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're obviously happy to have you. 12 years ago, building Do Media, certainly ahead of its time. What was it like being an innovator and a disruptor in a space where at the time, innovation and disruption was probably very outside the realm of daily operations for out of home as an industry?
It was and it wasn't. I think that there were, kind of challengers that came in with a lot of bravado and a big vision, and saw that there are elements of this industry that make it feel like it's right for disruption. So the fact that there's fragmented inventory all throughout the country, that still remains to this day. There's thousands of operators. There's thousands of, just understanding who has all the billboards in Topeka, Kansas is a difficult thing, especially for somebody that's sitting in on a planning team in New York City or in LA. That information is not readily available, and so simple things like that would would kind of lead companies like Do Media to believe that there's a huge opportunity to bring that information together and sort of build a system on top of that data. And I still think that still think that's a problem worth solving. I think that automation and building tools for planning and buying and also selling, that there's a lot of space for innovation even today. I really respect, the companies that have come along since Do Media launched. I don't always, like that they say they were the first or the biggest or the best or things like that, but we did that shit too. So it's like, you forgive somebody for doing that. But when we got started, it was really, marketplaces were big, So I joined in 2009. It started, sort of the year before. And the idea was, a lot of these industries were doing these online marketplaces and kind of consolidating in these platforms for, buying and selling. And the technologists that ended up building Do Media had built a natural gas marketplace that was very successful, that had done, $4.5 billion in transactions. I mean, serious tech and serious success. And so when the venture capitalists in Columbus, Ohio, seeded Do Media, they were like, okay, we're going to take this type of, software and this type of system, and we're going to, basically try to organize this fragmented out-of-home market and make it easier for, buyers to buy in these second and third tier markets, or, not just from the Lamars of the world, but, there's 4 or 5 or 6 of these players, and it's really hard if you're using spreadsheets, to really evaluate properly, 6 companies in each market if you're doing a multi-market campaign. So that's just a real issue and persists to this day. And again, is definitely worth solving. When we came to market, I think our big challenge, our big issue, and I want innovators in this space to kind of hear this clearly, like, don't just talk to yourself and convince yourself and your colleagues that this is a major problem and this is the feature set that's going to get it solved. That's a recipe for wasting a couple years and a lot of money. Really go talk to the industry and ask questions. I think when you raise $15 million or $10 million up front and you have this grand vision for what the industry needs, you can get caught up a little bit in going in one direction, and it's really hard to pivot if you go too far. So I think, one of the challenges that we faced at Do Media was too much money and too much belief in what our vision was, and not enough humility and not enough like, hey guys, if we built this thing, would you use it? Or is this really a challenge for you? Like we always thought local advertisers, we always thought that, second and third tier billboard companies and digital operators would want to be bought by Allstate and Samsung and Coca-Cola.
Sure.
And they're like, no, man, we're good. We got this local sales team. We got this thing. This is an annuity business for us that just turns out, predictable cash. We don't need people in LA, calling on these agencies. We don't need it. It's like, what? Like, man, if we would have just asked some questions, we would have really. And then the other thing, and maybe I'm taking this, too many different tangents, but, we suffered from. This is the other end of listening to customers and asking what they want. We would go to a potential agency partner or somebody that we're trying to sell a SaaS product to, and we'd say, hey, do you want to buy this planning tool, this buying tool? And they go, yeah, but can it do this? Can it do that? Can it do this? Can they export into PowerPoint with our company's, colors and fonts and things like that? And we're like, no. And they're like, okay, well, the answer is no. and so what we did is we just built all that stuff, and we just so we ended up with this massive, huge product with 85 features, and some of them really good and some of them just not very good. But it's this huge amalgam, and it was really so that we could answer those questions in a pitch. Hey, does it? Yes, it does. Hey, does it? Yes, it does. Hey, does it? Yes, it does. And at the end of the day, when you get the yes, it's like, okay, now let's train you on how to use it. And they really just use 5 things out of 85. And you're like, what the heck did we do all that building for? Like, now we got this big bloated product, and we got this, we got this whole thing. So I think what I learned more than anything in those 10 years of Do Media was, the industry is not one thing. There's 1,000 different personalities. There's 1,000 different stories. Don't assume everyone wants the same stuff for their businesses. Number one. Number two, when you're building an enterprise software tool that's meant to serve an industry, build a few things based on the market feedback, put it out in the market, see what people are actually using and what they like and what they're willing to pay for. Don't just build and build and build until you get a major yes. Just build some things, get it out there, and see if that mapping tool really, see if people log in every day. You know what I mean? They might license
good
it
place
from you,
to start.
but they never use it. They don't use it all the time. Or a planning tool. It's like you build a planning tool and nobody uses it. Well, maybe that's not where you need to go. So hopefully that applies to a lot of people's businesses as they come in and serve the space. Is listen, pay your dues, respect the industry too. I think that's a big thing that not just me, but other people that enter into this space in a lot of different industries is like, especially if you see an opportunity to disrupt, quote unquote, you have this mentality that something is wrong here. I need to fix it, rather than this foundation is solid and there's room to grow on top of it. That mindset is everything. And I think this industry in particular, because it's so tight knit, and proud, and for good reason. If you come in with that mindset to say, hey, yeah, but can we access some new dollars? Can we, with OneScreen, I love, like, can we light up middle market advertisers, performance advertisers? Like, there's a lot of money out there if we can make ourselves and prove the value to those types of advertisers. You could unlock $1 billion in new spend, and that's, I think that's the way to approach the market for the innovators of today. And I wish we wasted a couple of years of Do Media having the wrong mindset, and solving a problem we thought was the right problem. Now, we did ultimately pivot and listen and start to build products and start to see what people actually liked and used, and that really improved the business. And I'm still a small owner of that business. I still, I'm a user of their software. I subscribe to their stuff, and I wish them well. And like I said, I think it's a problem we're solving, bringing this industry into organizing it into a database, having planning and buying tools, sitting on top of that, I think is the right problem to solve. And then the other thing is bringing in local and middle market advertisers and giving them a good entry point that's digital, I think is really smart too.
I think we can just rewind the first 12, 13 minutes of this. It's a master's class on what to do, what not to do. And yeah, especially for anybody that's listening to this, that's saying, hey, I see something that's broken. Understanding, do the research. It might be uncomfortable to ask your end user, what is the thing you want? Because it might directly conflict with the thing you think they need. But being a good listener, and to your point of, yeah, like watching that, kind of feature creep on the scope of the product, really understanding what is it that the end user is trying to solve. Maybe they were asking for a logo and colors, but really what they wanted was a branded look and feel. Okay, is there a different way to do that? I think that's incredible insight, and thank you for sharing that. So Do Media, you get into out of home, you learn a ton along the way. You've got the entrepreneurship bug, and then a pandemic hits, and you decide to start a company.
Yeah. So the origin story for Screenverse is really a story about partnership and timing. Partnership with my co-founder, Dave Weinfeld, who, I like to say we grew up separately together in this industry. Back in 2011, I think it was, I was the director of emerging media, I think, at Do Media at the time. And I was really focused on getting mobile and social companies to be in the platform and allow these types of extensions and the types of buying that was happening there. And I don't know if you remember, like, Millennial Media, InMobi. I
have no idea. I'm such a noob to this.
All these companies
such a noob.
Were sort of, yeah, it was, well, there were these companies that were, sort of ad networks in mobile. And then there were a couple of them that really saw the value of, hey, there's all this out of home media that's out there, that's top of the funnel, that's driving awareness, that's hard to miss, and actually sort of welcomed. That's the funny thing about out of home is no one hates it.
No,
You know
it's
what I
not
mean? Like
creepy. I didn't say something to you and then saw a billboard for it the next day.
Totally. And maybe that will happen one day.
Maybe.
But but right now it's like it's not invasive and it's enjoyable to consume this stuff. And so, a lot of these mobile companies were like, okay, how do we take that first big screen experience and take it into a second screen experience where you can have these landing pages and have these experiences and measure it and introduce it into the middle of the funnel and things like that. So even back in 2011, that was really the cutting edge of what we were all talking about. And so I went to the Digital Signage Expo in Vegas, a four-day thing. I was the only person from Do Media there. I knew nobody in the industry. I don't know if I'd been to Vegas before. I was there, and I'm eager. I'm in my early 20s, and I'm like, I'm showing up for the coffee, coffee and keynote at 7 a.m.
Got your lanyard on.
Ready baby, go. I'm so proud of that lanyard in my Padfolio and taking those.
Oh, sweet.
Still have that Padfolio. And so I'm there just learning. And there's these breakout sessions that are around this, for the OGs in this space, the solo-mo, social, local, mobile, this whole thing. That's what we were talking about. Wait,
what is the solo-mo? You got
so it's really just it's so silly, but it's social, local, mobile. So it's really about thinking about how you can have these out-of-home activations that drive to a social experience. So like tweet to a screen or things like that, or use this hashtag and talk about the brand or whatever, or the initiative. Mobile, obviously, with QR. At the time, they were talking about NFC is only a couple years away. It's still maybe a couple years away. But that's kind of what it was about. And mobile, obviously, is the second screen, and it's really the first screen now for everyone. But that was it. That was the kind of like how we talked about these types of campaigns and this type of innovation. And so I didn't know anybody. I'm there to learn. I'm there to evangelize Do Media, get people to sign up in the platform, et cetera. And so I'm just consuming. I'm meeting cool people. I'm listening. I'm trying my best. And there's this guy that he shows up in like every one of these sessions. This big, tall guy, dark hair, and he's asking real smart questions. And so I kind of noticed him in day one. Day one, it's everyone goes off to dinner at these things. There's like all the big companies are hosting these dinners. It's like the Insider Billionaire Boys Club, where if you're sitting outside, it's 7 o'clock and all the content's done and you're like, well, where'd everybody go? So it's like, room service and I'm just depressed, going to bed early, like
lonely.
Yeah, it's super lonely. And to everyone who's out there who's new, like reach out, man. I got you. I'll meet with you. I'll have lunch. I'll have coffee. I'll introduce you around. Like it's a lonely thing out there. So anyway, day 2 comes around and David's still in these like breakouts. And there's like 30 people in these sessions. And I'm seeing him and he's so maybe I sit next to him or something. We have lunch together. And that night we had dinner. And I remember this forever. We ended up smoking stogies on the strip. It might have been just the two of us, but maybe 1 or 2 other people were there. And I remember just in that moment being like, all right, I'm good. I got one friend. I'm fine now. I'm not depressed anymore. He's what I needed. And so I've always had that type of relationship with him. And so we grew up separately together in the industry for a bunch of years. And in January of 2020, I was actually at Wilkins. So I was at a media buying agency, specialist agency. And, I can't say enough good things about them and John Salami and those guys. I mean, I learned so much. I wish I would have had that experience at Wilkins, by the way. Seeing the day-to-day grind of being a client director and being a buyer, being a planner, what kind of data they actually use, what's the business model actually look like and how does it work? If I'd have had that before Do Media, it would have been way better. But anyway, I digress. So January of 2020, David calls me. He'd been at Vistar the last 2.5 years. He built a really good business there on the supply side. He was their global supply side head of sales. and built a good team. They built a great product. They had a lot of SaaS revenue coming in, and it was really good. And but he saw this little hole in the market. He saw this opportunity. These networks were plugging into Vistar, and just by virtue of having 3,500 screens in grocery stores, or 800 in convenience stores, or whatever it was, some 100 pieces of digital urban panels or street furniture, they'd plug in and they'd make some decent money in the exchange. And the sort of founding question for the idea for him was, well, what would happen if there was a team of people managing this stuff every day and really building out these media businesses and making sales for people, and not just list it on the exchange and say it's $4 and let it go, but read the data, communicate to the DSPs, to the buyers, to the clients, and say, what are you guys looking to accomplish? Can we carve up our inventory in such a way that it's actually going to perform a lot better for you, be more efficient for you, and we create PMPs and things like that. So, his question was, how much more media value would there be in these networks, and then how many of these networks are there out there that might need this? So, same thing I'm talking about, that Do Media didn't do well, or whatever, a lot of us haven't done well. It's like, he started asking, hey guys, if I were to, spin out and start this kind of services business, would you hire me? What would you pay? What sort of margins are in there? And so he had done some of those, he had validated the idea a little bit by the time he called me. And when he called me, frankly, I love to hear from him. I love to, talk with him. I love it. I'm open to it with anybody. Strategize. I feed off the passion and the ideas and things. And so he had a lot of, I could tell he really had something here. But at the time I was building a book within Wilkins, and had an opportunity to make a lot of money and things like that. I'm not going to lie, but when he started talking about the idea, I was like, I need to be involved. Either I'm going to advise, I'm going to invest, I'm, maybe be a customer. I'm going to be involved somehow. Yeah. I have to. It's a really good idea. Well, it was a really good idea in January, and he kept talking to me. And then, bless his heart, and not in the Southern way, like bless his heart, he drove from, just outside of New York City, drove down to DC right before the pandemic, early March, drove down, met me at a coffee shop, spent a couple hours really talking me through, hey, this is not just a really good idea, this is a great idea, and now's the time, and let's do it. And that's really when I was like, okay, the partnership is there. One thing I know about entrepreneurs is, like, if you get a bunch of really talented people together and you point them in a direction, if they're the type that's going to knock down the walls, like they're going to be successful, right? They're going to be. And I just had that understanding of David, and I'm like, oh man, I would follow this guy. And I'm not I don't love being, I don't love bosses, you know what I mean? I don't like being managed. I'm not good. I'm also not a very good manager either, but but with David, it's like, man, I could be your partner for sure. Yeah. And then, so I'm still at Wilkins, and then when the pandemic really hit, so back into March, he called me, and it was like, okay, all right, so what's happening now? And I'm looking at my own business, and I'm like, okay, that campaign in Times Square, client called me, hey, am I going to do a visit, am I going to do a travel and tourism thing in Times Square right now? No, we're definitely canceling that. You know what I mean?
Probably
like,
doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So all these things and these campaigns, and the commissions that I was going to buy this car and do this, is like, all that stuff's going away. And I remember kind of, I think it's what we all felt. And it's like, oh man, the underlying value of this inventory is going to go way down. Like, if people aren't going to be out, like, we have to really change. We've got to really adapt to this thing. This is like potentially not just disruptive, not just a challenge to whatever. Like, this is potentially catastrophic. And
sure.
And so I was like, okay, well, I could spend the next 3 months canceling everything I had done, and then trying to sell pizza box ads and, big fan
of the pizza box ad, by the way. We love pizza here.
Box, there's only a couple things that were like really working, early pandemic. That was like everyone, Terra Boost, there's everyone was talking about, okay, where are people going to be, and what's the thing we can actually, and so I'm like, this is going to be terrible. And then David called me just at the right time. He's like, hey, I think this is the time. I think we just need to do it. And we just had kind of a strategic, okay, the physics of our business, I talk about this a lot, but the physics of our business are, can we get really high quality inventory? Mm-hmm. Can we get the sales rights to inventory that makes sense, that is delivering audiences, that is, well set up so we can run campaigns across hundreds of thousands of locations easily from a centralized, platform? Can we get really great inventory? Can we get really talented people? And then can we utilize the data sets and the tool sets, these emerging data sets and tool sets, including programmatic, to really effectively sell this stuff? And so we kind of asked ourselves the question of, is it going to be easier or harder to get quality inventory right now? Easier. Everyone's fired, everyone's furloughed, everyone's freaked out. There's it's like people don't want to have in-house sales.
Fire sale.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, just like drastic change. People. We got incredible people in the first, 4-6 months. We got incredible people because they're all where I was, which is like, oh shit, I'm just trying to keep this from falling completely apart, and stressed out, and you're just worried about everything. You're worried about your family, your health, your business, everything. So when we decided to start the business, we said, it's, this timing actually is going to help us do this. It's going to help us do this. It's going to drive programmatic that in the future of these systems into the present a lot faster. And so it's like, okay, these are the core three things. Can we get awesome inventory? Can we get great people? And then are these tools and platforms going to continue to grow and become dynamic? And so when we saw that it was like, this was a very good idea before, it's a great idea now, it was like, go. So left Wilkins, in the way I look at it, David and I both went, he had a great job at Vistar. He was doing awesome work. He had a brilliant team, still an awesome team. We went to zero together and said, all right, only one way to go, baby. And just, we've signed a couple of early partners that were in essential businesses, and we brought that to market. Hey, we've got, these 27-inch, kiosk screens that are in Kroger, 7-Eleven, these essential businesses. And what we did too is we invested in data sets that were 4 days old, not 4 months old, not 2 years old, 4 days old. I mean, that was a big check to write, 30 grand, 40 grand to get that kind of data. But we could go to buyers and say, guys, I know you just canceled everything. I know you've just paused, but if you want to be where the audiences are, I can show you, look, here's the dip. Right? Here's the March, April dip, and here's where it's coming. And we're 8% lower than where we were before. And what we always promised is, I'm not going to charge you as if this is 2019. This is 2020, and this is what the audiences are, and I'm going to charge you a reasonable CPM for that. But the M part is going to be real. The M part, the number of impressions, the number of people is going to be real.
Sure, it's not the let me look a pencil and we'll just scribble a number up here and estimate impressions.
Yeah, or
these are real impressions.
Stuff I was using from before, like it's just not the same. And that's a little bit, I think, the knock on Geopath in that time is they just, for a lot of different reasons and a lot of different pressures, and it's probably not their fault, but they didn't just go, here's what it is, guys. We're not going to give you aggregated, 200-day-old impressions. We're gonna do it weekly. And it's gonna look shitty for a while, guys. It is, but you got to sell something that's real, or else, you're gonna have a lot of pissed off people that didn't perform, and good luck getting that next deal.
It was a conversation that Kim Frank, now acting president Dylan May, about a year ago. And we talked about that, the delay, and so many people were looking for this data, and Screenverse, you saw it as an opportunity. The way that you described it, Adam, you really reminded me of of a company called DoubleClick, who Google bought in 2009. And then since that time frame, right, digital online has grown 435%. But why did Google buy DoubleClick? They had access to premium inventory. They had analytics. They could show what people were getting for it. And they had really talented people and built a great company. So
it seems, DoubleClick?
What I'm saying is that for all of the same reasons, and it makes sense why. And to your point about timing, here's the other fun fact is 42% of startups that succeed, it's based on timing. It's just based on timing. It's a good idea. It's great execution. It's the right people, but it's timing.
I'm so glad you said that. I think that was a Bill Gross study. I think he gave a presentation around that
on TED Talk.
I'm so glad that you called that, because I think about that every week, because it bites both ways, right? You can have a great product, you can have a great team, you can have a great idea, you have the capital, and you could be early. Or heaven forbid you're late and you're not able to really challenge that sort of more mature company. But you're absolutely right. And I talked about that with, some of our early investors too. I'm like, look, this is what, 42% of startups, that succeed, it's can be attributed to the time, the right timing in the market. And without a home in particular, there's not like paradigm shifting technology changes, paradigm shifting anything that happens all at once. It's like very gradual. The digitization of inventory has been 10, 15 years in the making, right? And so there's not that sort of weird tectonic event that shakes it up and creates this opportunity for companies to come in and say, all right, it's different now, and I'm going to lead this. I come at that, that statement in a very humble place. Like, I want to lead it, and I know the only chance I have to truly kind of lead that charge of bringing these new networks to market and being programmatic first and utilizing systems like Do-Media, AdClick, et cetera, and really making sure the data is great. And at the end, I have this thing I've really been working on with the team is we want to be a company that creates these, I call it high fidelity integrations with all the buying systems. And, that's going to require a lot of tech. It's going to require a lot of data. It's going to require a lot of nerds, that are going to just be happy to spend 10, 12 hours in a spreadsheet all day to make sure the data is right. And that's not me. I can't do that. I've got that ADD thing where I'm like, I want to be with people. I want to be talking. I want to be doing deals. I want to be thinking about, culture. But man, I need to build that around. And so we have, our last 3 hires have all been in ops. And it's exactly for, just seeing that, the new out-of-home sales business is going to be driven by tech, data scientists, ops people, nerds, in the best possible sense of the word. These guys, that's it. There's an old adage about out of home that I love, and I learned it early on when I was calling on these companies all over the country at Do-Media. Billboard businesses are construction businesses with a sales team. Because if you're out there, you're fixing signs, you're stretching vinyls, you got cranes, you got pickers, you go to some of these places, it's a big warehouse or a barn.
Sure.
And a little office, and it's not in Madison.
Billboards are big.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that's the business that we're building at Screenverse is, it's not a construction business, but it's a data and technology and operations business. Yeah. With a sales team, with hopefully a marketing team. First plug of the day.
Come back to the plug. I was gonna say, in case there's anybody listening, the team you've grown. So starting this off in the beginning of a pandemic, you and Dave, just say, now's our time. Yep. Now's our time, right? Everyone has been slowed down to the same speed. Whether you're the biggest or the smallest or the newest or the oldest, everyone is being forced. This kind of this synthesized governor on all of society slows everyone down, gives Screenverse an opportunity. Right?
Car guy.
Yeah. Grew up in the car business. And now a year and a half later, we had such a great conversation the other day about where you're focused focus is now, and on some of the more, you're able to step back and work on the business a little bit more, and that structure operationally. So talk to me about maybe that, just some of the key differences of how you're building Screenverse based off of the experience that you've gained over the, over a decade in the industry, being exposed to multiple different types of business models. How are you building the team at Screenverse today? And how do you see that playing out for the long-term growth of the company?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I believe strongly is everybody needs to understand what their North Star is in their career and in their life, right? Some people talk about it being, Simon Sinek's sort of find your why, or what's your why. And, I just, for the longest time, I've been sort of studying and trying to figure out, what am I personally motivated by? What's in my heart? What kind of a company do I want to be a part of? Where do I want to spend my time? What kind of family do I want to build? And I use words like that. That's how I know sort of I'm an entrepreneur too, is I use create and build a lot in the stuff I choose to do. Is that's my mentality. And so I'm like, okay, I want to build a business, and I want to build a culture where, and I know it's not in vogue to say it's a family and things like that, but no, I want to understand everybody, and I want to understand their motivation, what's in their heart, what their vision for their own lives are. And then my job at scale, eventually, if I'm not, I still make sales, I still, account manage, I still have to do the financials and run the numbers and try to get investors. But eventually, I just want to know everybody in the company. I want to just sort of make sure that everyone is aligned towards what their North Star is. And what that means is saying yes to people that don't necessarily have the skill set, but they have the mentality, the mindset, the goals that align with ours. We could teach them the skills, right? And then conversely, if somebody is coming with 10 years of experience in programmatic and all these different things, but they don't have that religion, the vision, they don't understand what we're trying to do, and they're not aligned, then that's a no. It's got to be a no. I firmly believe. So as we're building this business, it's like, okay, cool. You spent 15 years at Intersection, or I don't think they existed for, Titan and some, whatever. Sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You spent all this time, but like, what's in, what are you all about? Where do you want to go? Where do you see this industry, and what makes you excited about it? And, so, I think as we continue to build this sort of team around David and me, and we've done a heck of a job. I mean, Sue Danaher, absolute stud. I mean, she has just whipped us into shape in so many different ways. And Victor Germain runs our sales, and iCore and Screen Vision, and then, Touch Tunes, and they have just been, incredible voices in the room, and have helped us and accelerated our path. And then we brought in Jasmine and Laura to run our ops team, and they have just upgraded, so much of our, and we've been kind of just building through people that are personally aligned with where we're going. And I think as we continue to scale, and as we continue to get, hopefully achieve some more success, like, I just really hope that we all continue to value that the most, and hopefully that'll be my job, is I will be keeper of the culture, and I'll be keeper of the people, I'll be making sure that people are living, their best lives in the business and out if I can. And, but I like doing the other stuff too, and we still need it. We're only 13. We'll be maybe 20 by, the beginning of next year. So we're not really able to totally specialize yet, but I think about it, and that's the kind of work that, when my feet hit the floor every day, I'm like, let's go. Let's help these people. Let's help let's build this culture, and let's help these people become the, best versions of themselves and the most happy and productive. Because, man, if you've ever languished in a company before, I mean, raise your hand if you've been like, man, this year sucked. Like,
sure.
Now, I think we all have, and it's just because company's going this way, my heart's this way, and like, you just fake it. You're faking it. You're over here, you're faking it. And maybe you're talented enough that you're faking it's fine. and you could still maybe make some money, or you can still maybe get a promotion. But if you're faking it, stop faking it. You know what I mean? And find a company that's more on your path, and I promise you'll thrive within that company. So my goal in the next, and it extends further than just our people too. I mean, we've got partners all over the country, and I love working with them, and I want to understand their business goals and their personal goals, and our biweekly updates and stuff. I want them to be fun. I want them, if we're doing well, I want them to be joyful. I want to bond. I want, and all those things that I think this industry does really well is genuinely love working working with each other and rooting for each other. And my goal for is my group, myself, my group, my partners, but then my industry, baby. Like, I want everyone to be in that, to be thriving personally, professionally, have these companies thrive. So yeah, I definitely didn't answer your question. I mean, I know that.
No. You did though. You did it in a way that I think is probably more relevant to the audience and to somebody listening to this, that if you're getting up every day and doing what Adam described and going and faking it, there is 100% a place out there for you to land that you're not going to have to change anything about yourself. Myself personally, starting the podcast, being where I wasn't a whole lot of love or internal support for that. Now I work for a company that fully supports it and gives me the resources to go do it. I didn't change anything about who I am or how I approach the world or business or anything like that. I found the right place. And if you're someone like me, who loves what you do and you love getting up every morning, thank a founder. So Greg, Sam, Andre, Adam, folks like yourselves, like you give people an opportunity to love what they do, and founders taking that risk. I think that sometimes we lose sight of what that is. If you love what you do, thank a founder today. So Adam, I think that you answered the question really brilliantly.
So thank you. And this is a selfish note to other founders too, is, being a founder has incredible perks, unbelievable perks. You feel so much pride in seeing, people thrive and seeing the business tick up, and you're like, oh shit, we're going to be profitable, like, oh my gosh, we're going to be very like, if you're blessed to have that experience, like, enjoy it, man, enjoy it. Because I tell you, I have experiences in my early career where it was like, we looked at, as a leadership team, we're looking around going, we'll make this month's payroll, but without some changes, next month's going to be a real challenge, and so you're deferring salaries. Heaven forbid you have to cut back on people. You have, and these people have kids, houses, sure, mortgages, responsibilities, like real things. Real lives. They're counting on you, and it's like, so when it goes well, when that, and I won't say your name, but man, we had somebody that getting married, remodeled her house, all these things, and we gave her a raise and all this, and it's just like, oh, this is so good. This is so good. And that's enjoyed, right? And that's something that you can share. The successes are easy to share, but when you're a founder and the things aren't going well and you're stuck and you're depressed and you're gaining weight because you're not sleeping, you're not working out, it's like, that's a really tough place to be. And so my message to other founders is, find your network, and it could be me. I'd be very happy to be, shoulder to cry on, or at least somebody that'll listen to you. And, find a group of other founders in your neighborhood or in your city, or just, it's Zoom, baby, like wherever, and let it out, man, vent and share your insomnias. It won't make you appear weak, I promise. We're all in it. It's a roller coaster. People talk about startups as a roller coaster. It is, man. And I think, developing that ecosystem and developing that community is very important. And I'll raise my hand to say I'm in it. I'm happy to listen. I have some stories to share myself and what got me through and what picked me up and things like that. And I'm blessed that in 18 months at Screenverse, it's been pretty good. But I know enough to know that 6 months from now, some shit's going to happen, and I'm going to need, and David, I know, is that kind of guy that'll be there for me, and I'm there for him. And and then hopefully we have enough in the culture of the team where we can be a little bit vulnerable and open and say, hey guys, we're facing some tough challenges here, and I want to hear everyone's voices and what can we do together, versus what happened in a lot of places when the pandemic hit was like, all right, we're going to go in a room. The CFO, the CEO are going to go in a room, and all right, we're going 30% off of everybody. We're not paying for any of this stuff. We're not paying any of our credit. We're like, this is what we're doing, and present to the business. And at a certain point, it's hard to get everyone's voices, right? Like if you got 100 person, a 200 or 500 person business, like it's hard, but we're at 13, we'll be at 20, we'll be at 50. It'll be, I hope that we keep that kind of vulnerability and openness with one another. And I encourage the other founders out there, like, if it's now, reach out and let's have a conversation. Let's get a 3, 4, 5 person founder team together and have a Zoom and just, sip on a bourbon and talk and let it out. I think it's very, very, very important. So I don't know why I hijacked this with that, but I just feel that in my heart that, like, we're a tight industry, we can act like this last 18 months has been easy. It has not been easy. And so, we got to be there for each other. And I'm excited about getting in person and, in a couple of weeks at the DPAA event and Digital Signage Week and some of the things that are there. I can't wait. To see everybody. And I tell you what, if everyone, if I'm in a group and how was it's good. Like, bullshit. Tell me how it really
bullshit.
Was.
We'll call it. I think we're just going to bring a bunch of bullshit cards. So, if you're hearing this and you're on the other side, you're not the founder, but you're close to the founding circle. We're so fortunate now. My advisor, Jean Hopkins, has recently come on board at One Screen, and she gave me some advice early on, which was, it's lonely at the top. Be there for your founders. Be available so that they can, they're humans too, right? They're people with feelings and lives and families and the challenges of building a business. It's lonely at the top. Be available for your founders. Try to be a resource, not just on the business, but to them as human beings. Like this, we're in people business. All the technology in the world can't replace the fact that we're in the people business.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that. And I would give advice because when I started at Do Media, I was on the client services team. I was the lowest person there was. I turned down $65K a year to make $35K a year. But I knew I wanted the opportunity to be a part of something and build something from zero. And too, like, as you're thinking about career development, it's a really good way. I was a director in like 2 years, and that was a VP in like 5 years. And I was a part of the leadership team and owner of the business, like in my late 20s. And I wasn't that good either, like I was trying, but I wasn't that. But one of the things that I did well, and I think everyone can do, is when shit got hard, and when you're sitting around that conference table, everyone's looking at each other, the CEO or the chairman or somebody comes up and says, hey, here's what we're facing. I remember seeing half of the heads go down, half of the heads go up.
Just gave me goosebumps.
And I was one of those guys that was looking around going, all right, let's go.
This is where we dig in.
I was making 40 grand. It was my second year. I walked into the CEO's office and I said, they wanted to do these deferrals, salary deferrals. And I go, I'm down to zero. Now I was, I could afford to do that at that time. I was young and my parents were supporting me in certain ways, and I didn't have any outside responsibility. So I could, and some people can, some people can't, but whatever you can do at that time where it's like an opportunity to double down and really just assert yourself, I encourage you to do it. There's only a handful of those opportunities, really. Those earthquake moments where it's like, okay, how are people going to react to this? And I think that first of all, it built trust and love and appreciation from the team with me. And it also made me, I've sacrificed now. I'm in. This is
Sure.
more than a job. This is more than an opportunity to learn or make some money. It was like, I'm committed now. And I think, that startups are a good place where you can progress really quick. You're a VP at 26, you're a VP at 28, and I was graduating business school with some kids that were like, I'm going to Deloitte. I'm going to be a partner at 37 or 35. It's like, oh, maybe if I really crush it, I'll be 35, not 37. I'm like, okay, cool, man. That's not, climbing the corporate ladder was never something for me, but so little companies like OneScreen, little companies like Screenverse, there's an opportunity to, if you come in, if you sacrifice, if you commit to it, if you really kind of, see a problem and say, I'm going to solve it. Here's what I need to do. Here's my plan. I need 3 people. I need, a $150,000 budget next year. And here's what I'm going to produce with it. Man, you do that. You can get that. You can get that 6 months in, 4 months in, really. And it's really tough to do that in bigger companies. But what cuts is that, the 401k sucks,
Might be some long hours, like, some weekends work, some skip dinners. You're not going to do all the things that
when you didn't, it's like, you got to do it all. You got to design your own deck. Like, I don't have a marketer yet. I don't have a team of, let alone. And so it cuts both ways, but see, that's kind of what I'm talking about with like the heart. I want to understand people and what you're motivated by and what you're trying to do. Are you trying to build something and build a legacy and if you are, then man, I will invest in you. I will push you. I will give you every possible, opportunity to just crush it with your career. And then if you leave, great, man, go start your own. Like, that's my mentality. And and so I appreciate you saying
part of your legacy.
The founder stuff is and the value of people. We all know this, like, the value of networking, the value of relationships, the value of people. I mean, this industry is built on that, and that's sturdy. That's sturdy stuff. We I won't give you the specific, but there are so many people who, maybe they work at a competitor and you want to treat them bad, or you want to talk shit about them or whatever, but you respect it and you respect them. And that was something I needed to change. For 4 years, I hated every one of our competitors, and that I've grown out of that, thank goodness. And now I respect what everyone's trying to do. And it's funny, they could move from a competitor to a partner. And now it's like, wow, wait, why did I ever have animus towards you? It's just. So anyway, so you guys have I think, better sense of what drives me and the way I sort of think and the business I want to build. But you want to talk about any, sort of tactical stuff, state of the state, out of home?
I think we're going to have to do a follow-up. We're at the top of the hour already, which is crazy. So what I'd love to do is to do a follow-up. I'd love to do a follow-up deep dive on the tactics. I want to get into the programmatic versus.
This time we'll actually talk about the industry.
No, this is good. Like to me, these conversations are so important because for the most part, they're not on the record anywhere else. And I'm so grateful to be able to have a platform where these stories can exist, right? This will live on forever. And you'll have someday Screenverse will be, 200 employees and new employees will be coming back to listen to this, 5-6 years ago going, wow, okay, this is like, I don't necessarily have direct contact with Adam, but this is the company I work for. And I take it that seriously. So I would love to have a second conversation around some of the more strategic and tactical things if you're down to do this again.
And to all of our future partners and employees out there that are consuming this for the first time 5 years from now, call me on my bullshit. If I'm not paying attention to you, if I'm not listening, then I'm an asshole and I need to change. So send me this little clip. And
past Adam to future Adam.
Yeah, exactly. Future Adam, get your shit together, man.
Well, speaking of hiring and growing the team, you plugged it there briefly, but call it out. You're growing the team and looking for a few specific roles. Who are you looking for?
Yeah, right now we're hiring sales director in Chicago. Somebody that can do local, regional, national programmatic. And so those are local, regional, national, programmatic. We've got a lot of great inventory in Chicago. We're dotted sort of all around, but not Chicago. So there's a real opportunity to own that market. And really, we've got a lot of really high quality inventory, and it's a big fit for a lot of these brands and agencies that are there. So sales director in Chicago, reach out, careers@screenversemedia.com. We're hiring 2 biz dev, sort of earlier folks, some junior folks that can do prospecting outreach, sort of inside sales work. So we're hiring 2 of those. Those can be remote anywhere. If you're looking for your start, if you're looking to get into the business and figure out if you like this industry, it's a really good place to start. And then, we're also hiring a VP level marketer to basically create our brand Screenverse. So thanks, Tim, for giving me a platform. That's the most important thing is, this is a people business. It's a great opportunity. We've got a vibrant business. And I really think that the future is bright and the universe is open. So help us build brand Screenverse and build a really, really great company we can all be proud of.
They're all badass opportunities. And that was careers@screenverse.com.
Screenversemedia.com.
Careers@screenversemedia.com. Yes. Send a resume, send an email. The team will get it and be in touch. If you're not connected with Adam on LinkedIn, I certainly suggest that you do that, putting out content all the time. Adam, this has been awesome, man. I'm looking forward to part 2.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. If you're hearing this, you got to subscribe, you got to follow, you got to share, do all those things so that you don't miss any of the great content coming out, and especially so that you don't miss the follow-up conversation where we're going to break down programmatic versus direct guarantee versus PMP. We're going to talk about the things. Awesome.
Smash that subscribe button.
Smash that subscribe button down below. Adam, thanks so much for being here.
All right, man.
We'll see you.
Bye, everybody.
For the century, I finally came to my senses. I finally got my hand up on the tinted Benz, kid. I see the world clear through my tinted lenses. With the dream and the drive, the possibilities endless. Now print that, send this all the way to Tokyo. Take a trip down south, down to Mexico. Next stop, Shanghai, the world-class trade show. First class all the way, cause that's how we roll. Yeah, call us the rock star businessman. Rockin' shows, we handle business, man. We got our own future in the palm of our hands, cause divided